Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. My name is Kyle. We're going to be going over the Waiver Wire Report today. It is Tuesday night, September 28th. We're going on about 7 p.m. Central Time here. We're going to go over pretty much all the positions that you need here. I'm going to start with just kind of covering some injuries. We'll get into some questions from the chat room, but I just want to start the show with the new injuries to monitor tab here. Again, I did put the link in the description below for the Waiver Wire Report. And then we'll take a peek at some other things. But actually, before I get into that, I did want to say I got the week 4 start sit charts all ready to go. You just click on week 4, and I got some interesting new things to look at here too. I found a different way to filter. So you know how we like to look at fantasy points allowed by defenses here? I found a way to just put, quarterback, running backs, receivers, and tight ends all on the same chart. And then you can see here that Tampa Bay is allowing the most PPR points per game, which is pretty crazy. And then there's some teams down here, Denver, Carolina, Buffalo, New England, the Browns, the Saints, allowing, not a lot of fantasy points here. So the ones at the top here, these are teams that we want to target. So we'll get into that maybe tomorrow night a little bit, but we're covering the Waiver Wire Report. Good evening, Justin. Hope you're having a good Tuesday night here. But the new injuries to monitor, of course, everyone knows Christian McCaffrey's got a hamstring thing. Doesn't sound as bad. It's likely out maybe 2 to 3 weeks. James White sounds like he's got the same hip injury that Ryan Fitzpatrick has, so he's going to probably be out for 8 to 10 weeks. I probably think I'm okay with just letting James White go off my team completely. Giovanni Bernard, I'm watching the practice reports for him because he had a left knee injury. He's questionable for week 4. He looked great last week. He led the team in targets with 10. He caught 9 of them. So in PPR leagues, Giovanni Bernard is kind of a sneaky ad here. You get a good piece of Tampa Bay, and he looked like the clear best back on that team. So I like Gio. Juju's got a rib injury. We're going to be watching for him. A.J. Brown's got a hamstring. It sounds like he's week to week. I would assume that he's not playing this weekend. Tyler Locket, he had a left leg injury. He's probable for week 4, but we'll watch his reports as well. 2 Giants receivers here, Sterling Shepard and Darius Slayton, both with hamstrings. They're going to be questionable for week 4. Marquez Valdez-Scantling with a hamstring, and then Elijah Moore with a concussion. And then, of course, we got some past injuries that we're going to be monitoring here. But we'll start with the quarterbacks. It's difficult if you play in 8 or 10-man leagues. A lot of these quarterbacks are going to be available. I personally, I play in mostly 12-team leagues. I have one 10-team league, so there's a small chance that you can get a Joe Burrow or Baker Mayfield off the wire here. But I really like Joe Burrow's spot here against Jacksonville. Again, we're waiting to see. Let me check the reports, actually. I'm waiting to see what T. Higgins did today. I don't think they have any reports out for today yet. But as of yesterday, T. Higgins was a non-practice with the shoulder injury. Nobody else really for offense that we need to worry about as far as fantasy guys. So I like Joe Burrow if you can get him, whatever. He's a fringe quarterback one this week. I do think Baker Mayfield does have some fringe quarterback one options. What's going on, Aiden, man? Thanks for hanging out tonight. We got Justin Fields. I still want to hold out hope for Justin Fields. It was a train wreck last week. I think he's worth holding on to if you can, especially in Superflex leagues. I think that's where I'm holding on to him. But in one quarterback leagues, give me Kirk Cousins as my backup too, which you can get down here. But Derek Carr, he probably needs to be picked up. It's going to be a little bit tougher matchup against the Chargers on Monday Night Football, but he could be a fringe quarterback one. Daniel Jones at New Orleans here. It's a little bit of a tough matchup. I don't like the spot start for him here. I'd almost rather start Jameis Winston at home. I think this is the first time the Saints are going to be, with their home crowd in the Superdome. So that could be a nice get back together game for the New Orleans Saints. But Kirk Cousins, he's the streamer of the week. He's going up against Cleveland. I know the Browns just lit up Justin Fields, but the Vikings offense is a little bit healthier and a little bit more dynamic than the Bears offense at this point. And if you remember, the Vikings handled the Cardinals defense really well. That pass rush that terrorized the Titans didn't really affect the Cardinals much at all. So I think Kirk Cousins, he's 32.5% rostered in ESPN leagues. So that means he's available in almost 70% of leagues. He is one of my favorite ads. And even if you have, say, Kyler Murray, he's worth grabbing as a quarterback too, just because it steals a good quarterback from another team. I think if Tua Tagovailoa was dropped in Superflex leagues, he should be scooped up and put on your IR. Matt Ryan actually has a pretty nice matchup this week going up against Washington. It's a home game. And again, let me pull these up. The Washington football team allows the most points to the quarterback position. They allow about 28 fantasy points per game. So that is a major weakness here. You see the receivers are also a pretty green number too. I think that's the second most receiver points. So you're probably talking Matt Ryan, Calvin Ridley, maybe getting a big game in this weekend. I'm probably not going to trust Roethlisberger or Teddy Bridgewater in one QB leagues. Trey Lance, Mac Jones, Jared Goff, no thanks. Maybe Sam Darnold at Dallas. That game could be a nice little shootout there. No Christian McCaffrey. We could see more passing from the Panthers. Deshaun Watson, if you're feeling it, you could stash him. I just don't know if we're going to see him play this year at all. And then you get Zach Wilson, maybe a little bit better for Tennessee here. It is a home game for the Jets, but just maybe only in Superflex leagues for Wilson. Carson Wentz, no thanks against Miami. Jimmy Garoppolo, though, against Seattle. I mean, Seattle's defense, again, if we look at these charts, Seattle's allowed the third most fantasy points per game so far. A lot to the running backs, but the quarterback numbers, it's a good 20. So maybe Jimmy Garoppolo has a good game here. Taylor Heineke, again, that Atlanta-Washington game, I have a really good feeling about it. You see Atlanta Falcons are allowing the fifth most fantasy points per game here, and they allow 24.88 quarterback points, which I think is the second most. So Atlanta and Washington, that should be a really high-scoring game. Maybe Taylor Heineke is the guy that you want to stream. Taysom Hill, just maybe worth holding on to in deeper leagues. And then Jacoby Brissette, revenge game against Indianapolis. This is a home game in Miami, going up against his old team in the Colts here. So he's a super flex play. I think I'd rather play Jacoby Brissette than some guys above here on the list. So I like that. Cam Newton, just a stash play. Davis Mills, we're just going to stay away. And then you got your top 12 quarterbacks. So we'll get to the running backs in a second. I just want to check up. Yeah, I saw the trades. In the Fellowship League. We'll look at those in a second here. Josh Gordon's a must-add for Aiden. Patterson still not owned. You guys smoking something. And pick one. Zack Moss. What's going on, Harris? Pick one. Zack Moss, Chuba, or Robbie Anderson. I will drop Zack Moss if you stay. I should not keep him in non-PPR. So this is non-PPR. Robbie Anderson can go. Like we don't want him at all. I want Zack Moss. Just that offense in Buffalo, like you want to be a part of it. And for the rest of the season, I would rather own Zack Moss over Chuba. I think Chuba is only going to be valuable for maybe 2 or 3 weeks. It's going to take another injury to Christian McCaffrey. So I think that's kind of more of a gamble. Whereas Zack Moss, he's got the best value for the rest of the season. So if I had to rank him, I want Moss, Hubbard, and then Robbie Anderson. We're probably just going to let him go. So in non-PPR, though, give me Zack Moss because we've seen him score touchdowns. We've seen him – he's in the Buffalo offense. I think that Buffalo offense is going to score a lot more touchdowns than the Panthers offense. So I'm gonna stick there with Zack Moss. And I'm curious. And is Cordero Patterson available in most leagues here? He's actually listed as a running back in ESPN. I'm just curious what his percent rostership is. Let me do a little zoomies. Where is Cordero? So he's about 75% rostered. There's a good chance that he is already gone in your league, but you never know. Check your waiver wires. He's one of my favorite ads. I mean, he's gotten 7 carries. He's very predictable. He's gotten 7 carries so far in 3 straight games, and then the range of 2 to 6 receptions. So his floor is about 8.7 points. And then you see when he connects on some catches, he's going to look really, really good. And I like his opportunity this week against the Washington football team. But let's move on to the running backs real quick. Priority running backs that should be available. I'm assuming anybody over 60% is probably gone. I'll just recap them. I like James Conner. He's a stash and hold guy. Trey Sermon, stash and hold. Sony Michel, he should not be hanging around your waiver wires. I don't know if Darrell Henderson's going to play this week, so there's potential that Sony gets the start against the Cardinals this week. Nyheim Hines, he's getting more snaps than Jonathan Taylor right now, so that's kind of interesting. He's got PPR. He's kind of like the James White for the Colts. Alexander Madison definitely needs to be held onto. And then A.J. Dillon, just a pure handcuff play. But Tony Pollard, what did Tony Pollard end up doing last night? Because there was some garbage time that might have lifted him up. So in last night's game, Tony Pollard, he ends up again with 11 carries for 60 yards, 1 catch for 5 yards. I think that's kind of his floor. You see a game against Tampa Bay too. 8.3 and 7.5. So if you're going to whip Tony Pollard out, you're going to basically just guarantee yourself 7 to 8 points, and then with the upside of a touchdown here. Cordero Patterson, though, he's probably my favorite. If he is available, like his percent rostership went up greatly in the last day or so. If he was 60% this morning, if he's hanging around your waiver wire, you got to go get him. Ronald Jones, I'm willing to hold on to Ronald Jones if you need the running back help, but I think the Tampa Bay running back is going to probably just go away. We're going to be interested in Giovanni Bernard probably the rest of the season. Zack Moss, though, this is the guy. What's Zack Moss's percent rostership here? Zack Moss, he's up to only 61%. And when I did this morning, he was dangling around 57. So Moss is probably my favorite pickup of the week. Again, we've seen him in 2 games. He scored 3 touchdowns in 2 games. And then I just like the volume here. You see him get more carries than Devin Singletary, and he even was a better receiver, and he gets the receiving touchdown. So Moss, in games against Houston, Kansas City, and Tennessee, Miami, Jacksonville, the Jets, some really juicy schedule games coming up for Zack Moss. So I'm a huge Zack Moss fan going forward. Michael Carter, I don't know if I want to hang on to the Jets. Like, if it was up to me and I could get a Kenneth Gainwell, I could get a Gio Bernard, a Chuba Hubbard, even a Jeff Wilson, I'm probably taking some of these guys. J.D. McKissick, I'd probably take J.D. McKissick over Michael Carter too, but it's going to be kind of hit or miss there. Latavius Murray, Kenneth Gainwell, Tony Jones, Carlos Hyde, Damian Williams. These guys are only handcuff plays. I think if you do miss out on anybody, you can just add one of these guys and see what happens over the weekend. Malcolm Brown did get the touchdown, but I'm still not interested. But Giovanni Bernard, again, he's going to be the James White of Tampa Bay. I think this is looking really good. Let me just show you guys his numbers real quick. You got Giovanni Bernard here. I'm waiting to see what his practice reports are tomorrow, but he comes out and gets 20.1 PPR points. Even if you take away the touchdown, that's 14.1, 9 receptions for 51 yards. And we'll see if he starts getting more carries and just more involved in the offense going forward. But if you want someone sneaky, Giovanni Bernard is a interesting pickup here. And then, of course, it's Chuba Hubbard. That's what everybody wants. That's what everybody needs for the next 2 weeks. Let me just look at the Panthers schedule here to see what's going on. So they get Dallas this week. In terms of Dallas, I mean, that their running defense is their best part. They only allow 19.37 points per game here. So maybe that's double digits for Chuba. He did get 10.9 points last week, just in kind of relief duty for Christian McCaffrey. But going forward, I think you're probably going to see him get a start against Dallas, Philly, and maybe Minnesota. I think you're looking at a 3-week starting stint for the man here. And then if anything happens to Christian McCaffrey, again, it's kind of like that Mike Davis situation where we thought it would just be temporary for McCaffrey. But you're looking at a guy here that once you get Chuba, you probably just can't let him go. So if you're going to grab him, be sure to hold on to him for the rest of the season. You can maybe try and trade him, see what you get. But I think Chuba Hubbard, easily the most enticing pickup of the week. Peyton Barber, another interesting guy here, because if you have Josh Jacobs, you should probably want to go pick up Peyton Barber. He's kind of the handcuff to Josh Jacobs, because it's clear that when Jacobs is out, Kenyon Drake is still going to have his Kenyon Drake role, and they just basically put Peyton Barber in the Josh Jacobs role. So those two are kind of interchangeable. Kenyon Drake's kind of his own thing. So Peyton Barber, as long as Jacobs doesn't play, Peyton Barber would be the next man up. So I'm interested there. Ty Johnson's on the Jets, so whatever. But Jeff Wilson, if you guys have an IR spot, stash Jeff Wilson if you can. Daryl Williams is the backup, the handcuff for Clyde. But if you don't get Chuba, go and get Royce Freeman. I thought Royce Freeman looked pretty good. He was a pretty good receiver in his past here. So if you don't get Chuba, go get Royce Freeman. He's going to be the backup to Chuba. You could potentially just cap some upside there for him. And then with the James White injury, Brandon Bolden is going to be that next man up. So if you miss out on a lot of players here, guys that I like for the sneak here are Gio, Brandon Bolden, and Royce Freeman. So let me get back to we'll get to the receivers here in a second. I just want to go back and look at some of the questions here. And yeah, I personally like Cordero Patterson the rest of the season. Rate the trade in the fellowship. Let me see what we got here. So the trade between Justin and Aiden, it looks like I don't know who got who here. So how does this work? James Robinson and Derek Carr for Darius Slayton and Jonathan Taylor. I'm confused by how they list this. Who gets who? Keep Hope Alive traded. I'm confused why this looks like that. 1 second. So Justin's team ends up getting Slayton and Jonathan Taylor. Okay. 1 second. So Justin gets Jonathan Taylor, Darius Slayton, and Aiden gets James Robinson and Derek Carr. I mean, James Robinson, he just had the really nice game last week. I'm open to him being a running back too going forward. Derek Carr has been just tearing it up. So I like this move so far for Aiden's side. Jonathan Taylor, though, is probably the best player in the deal, and he just hasn't hit his ceiling yet. So if Jonathan Taylor starts getting things going, he's going to be probably clearly the best player of this deal. So it's a buy low for Jonathan Taylor. This is something that you can't really judge right now. It's something that you're going to have to look at later in the season if Jonathan Taylor returns back to his stud. Jonathan Taylor was a first-round, second-round pick. So that's the difference here. If Jonathan Taylor ends up reaching some of that ceiling, I think that's where the trade starts evening up. But as of right now, I'm going to give it to James Robinson and Derek Carr, whereas Jonathan Taylor, we need him to start scoring some touchdowns. So should I drop Darius Slayton? That's an interesting question as we're looking at Darius Slayton here. He's got a hamstring injury right here. I mean, I wasn't a huge fan of him. He's got the hamstring injury right there. I don't know if he's going to practice. We'll have to watch tomorrow and see if he's going to practice. But if you're going to hold on to Darius Slayton, I would rather have Emmanuel Sanders, Christian Kirk, Tim Patrick, any of these other receivers here that we know are healthy at the moment, and just had 4 QBs. I think he basically, Derek Carr was free, so it doesn't matter. He just picked up Jonathan Taylor. So start bench cut. China, is that Chuba? Elijah Mitchell, and Fournette. Man, I'm going to – for this week, you're going to start Chuba. You're going to bench Elijah Mitchell, and we're going to let Fournette go. Zeke is back, guys. Jameis Winston or Sam Darnold. Is this just for this week? If it's for this week, I'm probably going to go – it's really close. I just trust Sam Darnold more. I'm going to go with Sam Darnold. He's rushing for touchdowns. Tony Jones handcuff. Yeah. And that's the thing. If you guys can't get, some of the sexy running back picks, I keep trying to add a handcuff on my bench, and eventually something might hit. Nobody on the Jets right now. Justin Heineke. Noah, thanks for hanging out, my man. Is Gibson and Allen Robinson for Eckler a bad trade? I have a lot of receivers, PPR. So is Gibson and Allen Robinson for Austin Eckler a bad trade? I mean, in this case, I think you want Austin Eckler. I mean, he's a top 5 back right now in PPR, especially since it's PPR, and you say you have a lot of receivers. So Allen Robinson's just kind of gumming up the works. I think if you can go and get Austin Eckler, go ahead and do it. If you can move somebody up for Allen Robinson's spot, you're going to upgrade from Gibson to Eckler. I think this makes a lot of sense. Go get Austin Eckler, my man. We'll see. So I'm not a huge fan of Josh Gordon. I didn't talk about him much. He's on the bottom of the list here. We'll see. He's got to get acclimated to the offense first. We're probably not going to see much of him for the next couple of weeks. I don't know when he's going to be active next, but he's got to kind of just make sure he gets into the playbook and things like that. So if you get Josh Gordon, you're going to have to be patient with him. You're going to have to hold him for a couple of weeks before you trust him. Henderson, I don't know if he's playing. We don't know if Darrell Henderson's playing yet. So Berkey, what's going on? Should I accept this trade? I'm trading away Jonathan Taylor, A-Rob, and Logan Thomas, and we're getting Hopkins, Kittle, and Josh Jacobs. So the upgrade of Robinson to Hopkins and Logan Thomas to Kittle, I like the Hopkins Kittle side. And then Jonathan Taylor versus Josh Jacobs right now. I'm a little nervous because Josh Jacobs is banged up at the moment. So we're trading for an already injured running back. He has sat for 2 weeks. We just don't know when he's going to play. So if you, Berkey, if you told me who your backup running backs were, I think I'd be fine with this trade because Robinson to Hopkins is a massive win. And then I think Logan Thomas to Kittle, it's kind of even, but I'm still going to want Kittle on that side. So as long as you have 2 good running backs ahead of Josh Jacobs, I would say go do it. I don't know what you guys think in the chat room, but I'm leaning towards Hopkins, Kittle, and Jacobs. You're just going to have to stash Jacobs and wait till he gets healthy. Harris says, rank these guys non-PPR. Chuba Hubbard, Sony Michel. Hold on, I just saw that come in. You got Saquon and Gibson. Yeah, man, go do it. You're going to be starting Saquon and Gibson as your 1 and 2. So Jacobs is your 3. This is a huge. This makes a lot of sense to me. Go get Hopkins, Kittle, and then Josh Jacobs. As long as he heals up, he'll be fine. But Harris is saying, rank these guys non-PPR. Chuba Hubbard, Sony Michel, Zack Moss, Hines. So Nyheim Hines in a non-PPR, I'm going to cross him off the list. Ronald Jones crossed off the list. Probably even Giovanni Bernard crossed off the list. Austin Hooper and Peyton Barber. So Harris, if this is for just 1 week, I want Zack Moss because Zack Moss plays Houston this week, and I love the schedule. If you're talking rest of season, give me Zack Moss. Chuba Hubbard is nice. I think I would rank him second. Sony Michel, like I'm curious to see what the backfield looks like between a healthy Darrell Henderson and a healthy Sony Michel. So that one's still kind of cloudy though. And then Peyton Barber, he's really only going to be relevant when Josh Jacobs isn't playing, so I don't really see him having much in the grand scheme of things. And then Austin Hooper, I'd be curious what other tight ends you have out there. But for me, this is all about Zack Moss, and then I would say Chuba Hubbard and then Sony Michel are the top guys. Gesicki, Knox, and your T on Minnesota. Who to get rest of season? So Gesicki, Dawson Knox, and Tyler Conklin. So for me, last week I had a really tough decision, and I went zero tight end in a bunch of leagues, and I usually try to find a tight end at some point. And last week I was just looking around, and I just type in NFL snap counts, and for tight ends you basically want a guy that's just going to be on the field a lot, because again, the more a tight end on the field, the more chances he's going to get to catch the ball. So of course Darren Waller leads the tight ends in snaps. He's got 208 total snaps. If you look at the average per game here, he averages about 69.3. George Kittle's number 2 at 64. TJ Hawkinson's at about 61. Logan Thomas at about 60. Travis Kelce at 56. And then you see Dawson Knox and Tyler Conklin. They rank 6th and 7th in terms of snaps here. You get Mike Gesicki, who's not even viewed here in the top list. You see Noah Fant, Tyler Higbee, Kyle Pitts, Mark Andrews, Dalton Schultz. I mean, I think I'd rather have Dalton Schultz than Mike Gesicki at this point. But Gesicki so far, I mean, he saw a season high 55 snaps. So if he keeps that up, that's really good news for him. And then I think the just with Jacoby Brissette being in the offense, that made him go to the tight ends right now. So if you need a guy short term, I might say Mike Gesicki, but I'm going to bank on Dawson Knox and Tyler Conklin both getting a lot of snaps. They're both in really good pass heavy offenses. So if you want one for the rest of season, so the reason I lean with Conklin is because there's two main weapons in the passing game. It's Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. And then after that, like it can be Conklin. It could be KJ Osborne. It could be one of the running backs here. So I like Tyler Conklin as kind of the main number 3 guy. In Buffalo, like Josh Allen spreads the ball out so much. You got Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley, Emmanuel Sanders, Gabe Davis, 2 running backs to throw the ball to, and Dawson Knox. So it's a little bit more consolidated in Minnesota. So I'm going to rank them Conklin, Knox, and then Gesicki. I'm nervous about Gesicki. Just kind of doesn't feel as safe. Let me see what we got here. Kirk, Sam, and Lance. Pick one rest of season. I'm going with Christian Kirk. I don't feel like waiting on the other guys right now. Let's see. Yep. Yeah, no problem, man. Justin says he'd do that trade as well. The question I asked earlier, is it better if I told you I have Leonard Fournette and Jacobs? What question was that? Is that for this question? So you already have Leonard Fournette and Josh Jacobs. Yeah, I still want Zack Moss on my team for sure. Should I drop Osborne? Dalton Schultz, Knox, or Higbee. Who are we dropping Osborne for? I guess let me get into some of the receivers here, and then I'll get back to some questions. But I mean, KJ Osborne, he's 28% something owned right now. I mean, I'd rather have Emmanuel Sanders, Christian Kirk, Tim Patrick, Bryan Edwards, Hunter Renfrow. Even if you want to stash Rashad Bateman, that might be kind of fun. But I think KJ Osborne, we're never going to know what we get. He's kind of that number 4 option in Minnesota. So it feels nice to hold on to KJ Osborne. He's kind of just a handcuff, I think, receiver at the moment. Whereas like you whip out Emmanuel Sanders or Christian Kirk, you're going to feel good about that every week. Maybe even Terrace Marshall Jr. I might even rather have than a guy like KJ Osborne. So I'm probably dropping Osborne this week, but let's get into some of these receivers here quick. So at the top of the list, these guys are all 60% or more. Rondale Moore, Cole Beasley, Michael Gallup, Devontae Parker, Jacoby Myers. If anyone lets Michael Gallup go, he's going to be back in a couple of weeks, so stash him in your IR. Devontae Parker, he's a fringe wide. I mean, you whip him out, you kind of know what you're at least going to get like 6 to 8 points. Cole Beasley had a massive game, though. So in PPR league, Cole Beasley needs to be owned. We got Jacoby Myers here, which, looking at these charts here, Tampa Bay allowing the most wide receiver points here at 64 PPR points per game. Jacoby Myers is probably going to have himself a nice Sunday Night Football game. Jalen Reagor is fine. Curtis Samuel, just another one of those IR stash guys. Mecole Hardman is interesting. He's continuing to look okay. He's not blowing us away with that number 2 spot. But Darnell Mooney, Marquez Callaway, Nelson Aguilar, Sammy Watkins, Elijah Moore, KJ Osborne, and AJ Green. They're all nice. I just don't know if I trust them on a given week right now. But Emmanuel Sanders and Christian Kirk, these are the 2 gems of the receiver class this week. Emmanuel Sanders, let's look at his numbers real quick. Let me just go to the receivers here. And Sanders, I mean, he had 2 touchdowns last week. Josh Allen looks to trust him just fine. And in 3 games so far, you see a 9.2, a 6.8, and a 26.4. So the upside is, catching 2 touchdowns from Josh Allen, and the downside is getting, basically 7 points here. So the risk reward, you have this range of about 7 to 20 some points. So I know it's tough. They get Houston this week, but then Kansas City and Tennessee. The Buffalo schedule, guys, it's really good for fantasy football. You got Houston, Kansas City, Tennessee, then there's a bye, but Miami, Jacksonville, the Jets, the Colts. It just looks really, really good for the Buffalo side, which is why I like Zack Moss quite a bit. And then Christian Kirk, man, Christian Kirk is underrated right now. I think if you had to choose between Rondale Moore or Christian Kirk, you're going to want Christian Kirk for sure. Just look at his 3 games here. So we talk about a range of outcomes. You see a floor of about 9.5 points, upwards of 24 points. So this is even a better play probably than Emmanuel Sanders. I like the steadiness of the targets. He's involved in the offense. His snap counts are looking pretty good here, and he's the starting slot receiver for the potential MVP of the season so far. Zach Pascal, Terrace Marshall Jr. Terrace Marshall Jr., man, can't quit him. I mean, at this point, I'd rather own Terrace Marshall Jr. than Robbie Anderson. And I know 5.6, 4.7, 8.8, nothing yet. But just with Christian McCaffrey out, I'm just wondering if there's a few more passing attempts in this offense. Maybe there's a little bit more emphasis on the receivers. We'll see. But the guys that you really want, Tim Patrick, we know KJ Hamler's out for the season. Tim Patrick's probably a wide receiver 3 going forward here. He actually was the better receiver last week than Cortland Sutton. So Tim Patrick, probably one of my favorites. If you don't get Sanders or Kirk, I mean, Tim Patrick, man, that's pretty good value right there. Bryan Edwards, people are kind of sleeping on the man here. Let me just pull up his numbers real quick. But he's been steady, 12, 7, and 11.9. He still hasn't scored a touchdown yet, but he's having a good yardage season. I know they've had 2 overtime games, but we're just looking for a potential boom game from Bryan Edwards, and people are going to be excited about him. So he's a guy worth stashing. And Hunter Renfrow, just another Raiders weapon here. You're getting a piece of the Derek Carr passing leading offense. And you look at his numbers, he's had 3 straight games of double digits. So 13, 10.7, 18.7. If you don't like Christian Kirk or Emmanuel Sanders, the volatility, Hunter Renfrow could be the guy for you. And then just some other guys here. Rashad Bateman, just a stash. Van Jefferson, he's just kind of a stash right now. And Marquez Valdez-Scantling. These guys are both really good pieces on really good offenses, so they're worth holding on to. Keep an eye on Colin Johnson. If Slayton and Shepard can't go, just keep an eye on this Colin Johnson guy. And then with A.J. Brown dinged up, you're going to see Nick Westbrook-Ikine potentially be the number 2 receiver. And then last but not least, Josh Gordon. If you guys want to go get Josh Gordon, he's going to require patience. I'll say that, but he's already about 12% rostered here. I don't know when he's going to play. It's going to take him a couple weeks to get acclimated to the offense, but maybe by week 6 or 7, he might be useful. Again, we're entering week 4. We got to be patient with him and see what happens. But that's all the receivers. We'll move to tight ends after I get back to some of these questions. Dalton Schultz, Knox, or Higbee. I think right now, again, with these tight end snaps, like Tyler Higbee's right there. Dawson Knox is right there. Dalton Schultz is sneaky, man. He's been really steady. I think in terms of Schultz, Knox, and Higbee, we're splitting hairs right here. I mean, that's really a preference call. I really can't pick between they're all kind of the same guy. At this point of the season, we love Kirk. I think I want Brandon Ayuk, because Ayuk he had some really nice. If we just go to receiver here, can I search by team here? No, I cannot. Oh, I can. So Brandon Ayuk, in terms of snaps, he goes from 26 to 38 to 60. The usage is there. He got 60 out of 70 snaps last week. So I'm going to hold on to Brandon Ayuk. We know that he is a really good football player when he's healthy, so let's hold on to him. Lucius, thanks for hanging out, man. I'm not sold on CEH. What's a good trade target for him? Thanks in advance. If you're not sold on Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I'm just pulling this up to see what numbers and names we can look at here. But Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. He's ranked 13th in total snaps, so that's kind of nice. It depends. Like, if you just want someone steady, you could go get Chase Edmonds. Let me just pull up Chase Edmonds' numbers real quick. One, you're getting into another really good offense. You look at his floor here of 12 to 14 points. He's a pretty safe and steady guy. If you just want to lock in those 12 to 14 points, I would consider looking at a guy like Chase Edmonds. Or otherwise, maybe some of the owners are a little bit frustrated, whether it is, I don't know if you like Myles Gaskin. I don't really know if I prefer that one, but check with the Antonio Gibson owner, see what he's feeling. You could check with Montgomery, but the Bears offense, I kind of want to stay away. I think the name that stuck out the most, first of all, go see if someone wants to get rid of DeAndre Swift. See if someone wants to get rid of Saquon Barkley or Ezekiel Elliott. But I would first go look for the Chase Edmonds and maybe Antonio Gibson, maybe Kareem Hunt, some names like that. You're not going to get a top 10 back here, but you could get a solid running back too. So go start with Chase Edmonds and kind of work around that. Should I stack up on backup tight end if my tight end has a bye in week 11? My kind of rule is you want to have a backup at every position. It takes 1 week, and then all of a sudden you need a tight end, right? So if there's somebody on the waiver wire that you like, I know it's far away, but if you can hold on to somebody and see how he does, and you could potentially block some players from getting a really good tight end, I think I would do so. And again, you're the Christian McCaffrey owners, man. Like it sucks losing a really good player of your fantasy team. So it's always a good idea. I like to have at least a backup for every position on my roster. Even if you have Travis Kelce, man, like it helps to have an option in case you need it. And say one of your other positions are hurt and you need to start another tight end at flex. Some things happen. So I wouldn't say stack up on a backup, but if something looks good to you, I wouldn't be afraid to grab it. Had to get Gordon. Ranked 3 rest of seasons Ravens wideouts on IR. Ranked 3 rest of season Ravens wideout on IR. Tim Patrick and Hunter Renfrow. Okay, so that's Rashad Bateman, and then you get Tim Patrick and Hunter Renfrow. I think at the moment right now, rest of season, this really depends on. I think there's a few different styles of a fantasy football player. So like when I pulled up Hunter Renfrow, some people are like, oh, Hunter Renfrow, but then you look at his numbers and you're like, what? Like look at these steady numbers. If you're a fantasy manager and you like consistency, then yes, like Hunter Renfrow is the value here. He gets 10, 13, 18. If you're fine with that, not everyone's got a different feeling here. Whereas Tim Patrick, he is actually pretty steady as well. He's had some nice double-digit games. So I kind of view Hunter Renfrow and Tim Patrick the same. But Patrick's a more vertical guy. Renfro's more kind of middle of the field and just a lot of targets and stuff. So I like both guys quite a bit. Patrick is kind of the number 2 weapon in that offense. And Hunter Renfrow, outside of Darren Waller, he's kind of their leading receiver right now. So for me, it's hard for me to trust a Ravens wide receiver. As long as Marquise Brown is healthy, I think Rashad Bateman's probably going to be too boom or bust. So if you want the consistency, the steady targets, the steady numbers, you go with Renfrow. If you want a little bit more boom with the touchdown, you go get Tim Patrick. So I'll rank Rashad Bateman as last, and then it's a preference choice. Do you want the steady Eddie Renfrow, or do you want a little bit more boom with Tim Patrick? Dalton Schultz or Noah Fant? Non-PPR. Wow, what a question. Dalton Schultz or Noah Fant? Holy crap. I'm probably going to hold on to Noah Fant. Now that another target's down for KJ Hamler, Noah Fant's been getting a ton of snaps here. I'm probably going to roll with him. It was 1 bad game out of 2 games here, so I'll roll with Fant here, and especially non-PPR. We'll stick with the big yardage guy. But Schultz is sneaky. Schultz is kind of like, just a steady guy as well. You trust Pitts and J-Rob this week to get like 30 total points? I can see that. Definitely, I can see that. Let me just look up. So Washington football team allowing about 12.57 points to the tight end. And then James Robinson. The Bengals allowing about 24.53. So with the Bengals, we know that pretty much all the running back points are Joe Mixon's, or all the running back points go to James Robinson. So Robinson, good for maybe 18 to 20, and then it's up to Kyle Pitts. I'm waiting for Pitts to get his first his first touchdown of the year. That question I asked earlier, is it better if I told you? I think we got that one covered. Chris, what's going on, man? We got DeAndre Hopkins and Brandon Cooks for wide receiver starting. Should I trade Julio for Gronk? My TE is Jared Cook. What do you guys think here? I think I might hold on to with this AJ Brown injury right now. I might hold on to Julio Jones, but if you're telling me Julio Jones doesn't crack your starting lineup, I mean, I would rather have Gronk in my lineup than Jared Cook. So if you're telling me we can't use Julio Jones right now, he's on our bench, I would say go do it. We're saying PPR here, and then Chase Edmonds for flex. So yeah, like I'm gonna have a hard time. I'm gonna have a hard time with this. Should I trade Julio Jones for Gronk? I mean, I think I trust Tom Brady and Gronk more than I trust Ryan Tannehill and Julio Jones. So I don't know what you guys think in the chat room, but I'm gonna go get Gronk. I know AJ Brown's hurt right now, but you can easily just keep Chase Edmonds in the flex. That's super safe and reliable, and then you're going to upgrade from Cook to Gronk. So I like the move for Gronk. What do you guys think in the chat room? And then maybe Jamie Collins. We saw he was released today. That was kind of weird. But anyways, we got to cover the tight ends. I'm going to hang out for another 5 minutes or so. So if you guys got any more questions, fire them up. As far as tight ends, like Jonnu Smith, like oh my God, it looked really really bad for Jonnu Smith yesterday or on Sunday. I want to filter here. In terms of tight ends on Sunday, Hunter Henry had 52 snaps. I mean, Jonnu Smith didn't even play like in a top 50 role last week. He had 30 snaps. So Hunter Henry, if you're going to own a tight end in New England, it's Hunter Henry. Mike Gesicki played really well. He's back in our good graces. Jared Cook still playing well. Austin Hooper, and then Hunter Henry. So like if Hunter Henry's available, he's an interesting tight end streamer. Evan Ingram looked like garbage again with his fumble. I think we might be done with Evan Ingram. Cole Kmet, just that Bears offense stuck in neutral. But Zach Ertz last night, guys. Zach Ertz looking like he was back into some vintage form here. He didn't get a lot of snaps, and he's going to eat into Dallas Goedert's snaps quite a bit. You see Dallas Goedert down here at 34 snaps, and Zach Ertz here at 30. So they're both going to be low snap but high efficiency plays. I think if you need to trust someone, Zach Ertz and the tight ends in Philly, they seem to work out. So I like him as a sleeper. And then Gerald Everett. We saw Tyler Lockett get dinged up last week. Didn't have himself a really good game. And Gerald Everett was the number 2 receiving player on that team behind DK Metcalf. So he caught all 5 of his targets for about 50-some yards. So don't sleep on Gerald Everett. You might see him develop as a weapon for Russ Wilson. Jack Doyle, Blake Jarwin, Max Williams, I'm not really interested. Pat Freiermuth here for Ben Roethlisberger, though. He's been looking really, really good. He got his first career touchdown last week. He's been beating Eric Ebron in snaps and targets. You see just steady growth here. Again, just with the low ADOT of Ben Roethlisberger, I'm open to it. I don't know if I'm going to trust him against the Packers, but he's just something I noted here. And then the two pickups are probably Dawson Knox and Tyler Conklin. I do like Dalton Schultz. I should probably have highlighted him and put him in bold as well. So I'm going to do that. So my favorite 3 pickups are Knox, Conklin, and Dalton Schultz. And then quick before I get into the remaining questions here, best matchups for streaming defenses. Don't be afraid to whip out the Bengals, man. Just the way that they've been turning the ball over in Jacksonville, I think the Bengals at home, we could get something really nice there. The next best play would be the Titans against going to the Jets here. Bears D against Detroit. Detroit's pesky. I don't know if I'm going to trust it. Detroit is a very pesky, and they got some punch on that offensive side. I wouldn't sleep on the Detroit Lions here. So I'm going to rank these guys: the Titans, the Bengals, the Packers, maybe the Dolphins, and if the Saints are available, I'm going to say go Saints. But that's everything that we needed in the waiver wire. I'm going to get back to some questions real quick. Yeah, I'm getting Gronk in that one. What's Zeke and Corey Davis trade value? So, I mean, if you're nervous about Zeke, now might be the time to get rid of him. He looked great last night. I know it was Philly, but he looked really good. So if you take Zeke for what he's worth, one way that I've been just looking at the NFL is you look at snaps, and that's how a team identifies, who's a really good player. So technically right now, you could say Ezekiel Elliott's like a top 5, top 10 running back, right? So you're adding in Corey Davis with that. Maybe you can go get Austin Eckler or something like that. So you're talking a top 5 running back. Go talk to the Najee owner, Derrick Henry. Just see what they like. But you're talking about a top 5 running back there. CD and DK for Tay. CD Lamb and DK for Tay. If you have Kellen, my man, I'm interested. Who are your other wide receivers? If you have the depth at receiver, I say go for it. Devonta Adams is the best receiver in the game, the most consistent. He gets pummeled with targets, and Rodgers loves to throw him the ball. So if you offload CD and DK, who would you have behind Devonta Adams? Devonta clearly, though, like that, I mean, he outscored probably both those guys this week himself. So Devonta's a monster as a 2-for-1. Can we trust, thanks for the question, Andrew. Can we trust Ayuk again to start, or do we wait until another week? If so, my other option would be Corey Davis or Jacoby Myers. Really good question, Andrew. And this is a really good one. I'm glad you asked that. So Ayuk, if you're still nervous about Ayuk, I'm glad you gave me the options that you have there too. I'm probably going to not trust Corey Davis, but Jacoby Myers, that man had a lot of targets last week, and it was a game where they were losing. And all of a sudden this week, they're playing Tampa Bay, a game where they probably will be losing. And just look who pops up here as the 3rd most wide receiver snaps in the league. It is Jacoby Myers. And then we go to our handy-dandy start-sit charts here. You see that Tampa Bay allows the most wide receiver points, 64.37 PPR points, and they allow the most PPR points among all positions. So to me, I think Jacoby Myers is the smash spot here. Even if Jacoby Myers gets you 10, 12 points, you're fine with it. And then hopefully, like, we want Ayuk to do something on our bench that it's like, yes, he's back, right? So give Ayuk maybe one more week. It's Seattle, though, so it might happen this week. But again, there's a little bit of risk in that. So if you want to take no risk, go with Jacoby. If you want to have a little bit of risk, go with Ayuk. And then we'll just let Corey Davis just be in the New York Jets team. Derek Carr, Daniel Jones, Taylor Heineke, or Sam Darnold as a backup. Rest of season, I would probably rank them Derek Carr. Daniel Jones looks good, but I still don't trust the Giants for some reason. I was starting to last week, but then, I mean, just no touchdowns for Daniel Jones last week, and they lose to the Falcons. It's just kind of whatever. So I think Derek Carr is the clear backup guy that you want there. And then as a number 2, I think Taylor Heineke is probably that guy. And then, yeah, Daniel Jones, Sam Darnold. They're hard to trust each week, so I'll go Derek Carr. Mixon and Cooks, Henderson or J-Rob, and Pitts and DJ Moore this week. Hold on. Mixon and Cooks, Henderson or J-Rob. Okay, so Joe Mixon, Brandon Cooks, Darrell Henderson, or J-Rob, Pitts, and DJ Moore this week. I don't know if Henderson's going to play, so I'm going to roll with J-Rob, Pitts, and DJ Moore. Hines, Sermon, or Mike Evans flex? Mike Evans, man, all day. Mike Evans. I would still have Keenan Allen and Michael Thomas when he comes back. So we can't bank on Michael Thomas coming back. So do you only start, Kellen, 2 wide receivers in your offense? Because if you're just going to start Keenan Allen and Devontae, like, that's really great. If you have some really good running backs, that's really, really great. So if you only need 2 wide receivers, might as well do it Keenan Allen and Devontae Adams. Should I give up Allen Robinson, DJ Moore, and get DK? Wide receiver snap counts. Allen Robinson and DJ Moore and get DK. I mean, I'm probably gonna. You got DJ Moore in his breakout season. I'm probably gonna hold on to DJ Moore, and you always have Allen Robinson in the back pocket in case something happens. So I'm gonna hold on to DJ and A-Rob here. Had to bring in some bet presents for the Fellowship League. Carr, Josh Gordon, Hines, Sermon, Hunt, running back. I'm going with Kareem Hunt still. Sermon, it's hard to trust. We don't know if Elijah Moore is going to play. And we'll answer a lot more start-sit questions tomorrow. I'm going to get out of here in a minute or two. But tomorrow night, we're going to go live on Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Central. I mean, once we get that initial Wednesday practice reports here, I'll be able to answer things a little bit better. We don't know if Elijah Mitchell's going to practice. Naheem Hines, I like. But sitting Kareem Hunt right now just seems a little foolish to me. If you guys did want to go check out the start-sit charts, I do have them up. They're ready for week 4. Just go to thefellowship.com and click on week 4. And you guys can kind of see everything I got in there. We're going to cover this tomorrow night. And I've been working on these charts here. You guys should check these out. But yeah, go check out the start-sit charts. If you guys do have questions, we'll cover these tomorrow night. But I think Kareem Hunt needs to be started at this point in a fun game against Minnesota. What's Captain Kirk's season ranking so far? Kirk Cousins is quarterback number 4, my man. Yeah, we only start 2, but I would lose CD at my flex. Also, my running backs are Saquon and AK. Okay, so Kellen's going to be starting Saquon and AK. Then he gets Keenan and Devontae. So then he just needs a flex. So is it worth keeping CD Lamb, DK, and then you still have Keenan Allen? I think at that point, unless you have a really good flex option, I'm probably going to. If you're still here, Kellen, who would you pull up at flex? If you're starting Saquon and AK, if you're starting Saquon, AK, Keenan, and Devontae, who's your best flex player? Because if that flex player is worse than Keenan Allen, I would say hold on to Keenan or hold on to CD and DK. But if that flex player is better than Keenan Allen, I think we're going to stay. So I'm leaning towards not doing it. But yeah, thanks for hanging out with us, guys. This was a lot of fun. No problem. Yeah, Kirk Cousins is he's been dealing. He's been really playing well. And if you guys, you would have to start Gaskin or Melvin Gordon. Okay. So that makes me a little bit more nervous. I mean, of course, I love Devonta Adams, but you have. Last week was a down week for CeeDee Lamb. I think it's going to be a lot better. So points are coming. I'm going to hold on to CD and DK. Oh, man, I love Devonta Adams, but I'm going to hold on to that. You get Keenan Allen in the flex, so I don't want to go down to Gaskin or Melvin Gordon, so I'm going to stay put there. But I appreciate everyone in the chat room. We had a couple of new faces. I really appreciate all the questions. Tomorrow night, again, we're going to cover the start sits. But check out some snap count stuff, guys. I've been really looking into the snap counts, and it's been helping me make decisions, especially last week when I had a tight end decision to make. It was between Gerald Everett and Tyler Conklin, and I went with the player that had the team that was getting more snaps. So that was Tyler Conklin, and I got rewarded. So thank you guys so much for your time. I had a lot of fun. We'll see you guys tomorrow night. Good luck with your waiver wires. I hope you get everybody you want. And I don't know. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you tomorrow. Peace.